I'm Steve Hirsch. Welcome to Hirsch Fruit Farm. So the total farm is about 480 acres. We have about 35 acres in apples and about 35 or 40 acres in other fruits and vegetables. We grow about 30 different varieties of apples. So we'll have apples starting in the beginning of July, and then we pick apples from July through October, and then we're able to store apples all winter. But so we'll have apples about 9 or 10 months out of the year. We'll pick depending on the year. If it's an average year, it'll be about 10,000 bushel of apples. If it's a really good year, it might be 13 or 14. My great-great-grandfather bought the first 80 acres here in 1872, and my great-grandfather started planting peaches about 1890. So that's kind of why the fruit farm part of the farm was started in 1890. But we've been part of the community for a lot of years. It's really enjoyable to be able to work the same ground for generations and to take care of this piece of property that God gave us to look out for while we're here. So everyone goes, well, what do you do in the winter? Well, we have about 10,000 trees that need to be pruned during the winter, and there are a lot of other things that go on. But you know, from the beginning of spring, when we start taking care of the trees as they're blooming and that kind of thing, all the way through picking and pruning, there's always something to do in the orchard. And then we of course raise 16 other crops besides apples, so we have a number of opportunities to do other things here too. The elevation change on our farm is over 500 feet from the creek bottoms to the top of the peak on this hill. And so most orchards, especially back when they started planting orchards, were planted on hills, because in the spring when the trees are blooming, if it gets below 32 degrees, it'll freeze the blossom and kill the bud, and then you don't have any apples. But cold air is similar to water. It gathers in the lowest spot first. So it's still warmer on the hill than it is in the valleys when it gets cold in the spring. So the temperature change might be 3 or 4 degrees between the valley and the top of the hill, but that may be the difference between having a crop and not having a crop if your apples or your peaches are in bloom at that time. We have our apple harvest open house this weekend. It's an opportunity to allow people to come onto our farm and see what we do here. We have a lot of activities. We do orchard tours. Most people don't get an opportunity to see our orchard, so we have a tour that we take them all the way up, and you get to come all the way up and see the view from here as part of the orchard tour. But you also get to see the orchard, the apples, peaches, places where we grow the fruit that we sell. And then we also have an opportunity, if you want to pick your own apples, to get off the wagon and pick their own apples, which is something that we only do 2 days a year, which is this weekend, because our orchard's not set up for pick your own. We're not right off the road. Not a lot of. We have one way in and one way out, and so it's not conducive to doing that other than this weekend. We'll have horse-drawn wagon rides, putt-putt golf, face painting, and lots of other activities for kids. We'll have food and drink available. 3 or 4 different community groups do food, have food offerings here. We'll also be making lots of different apple things. So we'll have apple cider, we'll have our apple cider slush, caramel apples, apple dumplings, cider floats. If you've never tried one of those, you got to try cider float. It's supposed to be in the 80s, so it'll be a perfect time for one of those. But it's just a fun family day on the farm, and we have a number of different community groups that are here, from a Relay for Life team to the Huntington Band boosters, Bishop Leger boosters, and others that are doing food and things like that to support some of their missions. There is a $8 charge for parking, with the proceeds to benefit Habitat for Humanity. And the crowd is we usually have a pretty good crowd of folks that come out. So if you're coming out for a day on the farm, just be patient and have fun. There's lots of things to do. I forgot to mention pick your own pumpkins. You can do that. We also have pumpkin painting, so the kids can paint a pumpkin and take it home with them. We'll have plenty of fresh cider and apples. If you don't want to pick your own, we have plenty of pre-picked apples available in our market too during the day. This is probably the most exciting time of the year is when we get into apple harvest, because the weather's starting to change. It's getting a little cooler. That's my favorite time of year, is when it's about 75 in the day and 60 at night. That's just perfect.